Hello, everyone, and welcome to 2822 Sports Night on this Christmas Eve. I'm your host, Ricky Turner. And yet again, it is just me tonight. Elena is off, Nick is off. So, yes, she'll be dealing with me for the next 58 minutes. But today, night before Christmas, we had our Twas come out on air. That's always a seasonal favorite. We've got a few local packages here. Elena did a great package last night on a local coach in our area setting a PIAA record for wins in a career. So that's great to see. We'll also be highlighting some of the best moments of this year in sports. I think Elena did that as well. That'll be a two-part package later in the episode. But for now, we're going to start with previewing some exciting Steelers and Bills games coming up. The Eagles already having locked up their division. They're already going into the playoffs, but they're going to get one more test this season from a team that is a team with some actual regard to it, not the Washington Commanders or the Las Vegas Raiders like they have the last 2 weeks. This is the Buffalo Bills, a playoff caliber team, an MVP quarterback from last year, a guy who's really carrying this offense alongside his running mate and his running back. The offensive line, which has done a fantastic job this year at opening holes in the run game as well as protecting Josh Allen. But there are some holes on this offense that do remain to be seen, as well as the front line of this defense that the Eagles could expose if they really want to. But I think this is a great test for the Eagles. The Eagles need some adversity. And I think this game gives them that. I think this game, you look at it, this is a good Bills team. I think we've, again, seen better teams from the past with the Bills, but this is probably the best you're going to get. And it's always good to get these games in right before the playoffs. I'm a firm believer you need to, I guess it's not college football, but I like adversity going into the playoffs. I like being in a playoff-like atmosphere, having to go on the road, having to win in these tough environments, which is exactly what the Philadelphia Eagles are going to be tested to do because they've put up some better numbers offensively. That schematically, they've looked better. It looks like a varsity offense. They're moving the ball like it as well. Saquon Barkley is coming off one of his best games of the season. And it's really good to see that the Eagles are trending in the right direction. But as I've said, these are against two really questionable teams in the Las Vegas Raiders and the Washington Commanders, who they will see next week, ironically, to wrap up their season. So we'll see if they really want to play their starters and their thoughts on doing that as well. But this should be a really exciting game for them. I think it's going to certainly provide some adversity. It's going to be tough going on the road against a really good Buffalo team, but we'll see just exactly how they react. But here, to give you the Bills side of things, it's going to be Carl Jones from WIVB. If you don't remember him, well, we interviewed him earlier this season when they played the Buffalo Bills played the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. This time, the PA team will be traveling up to Buffalo, so a little bit of a change of things. And the Bills coming off of a tough victory last week, maybe a little bit tougher than expected against a Cleveland Browns team that's starting a rookie QB in Shedeur Sanders. Their star running back got hurt in the process in that game, but the Browns made it a closer game than probably many Bills fans would have liked, and Josh Allen did not put up those gaudy numbers that you're used to. But without further ado, here's Carl Jones from WIVB News 4 in Buffalo. And welcoming onto the show here is WIVB sports reporter Carl Jones to give us the Bills' point of view as they look to continue their win streak going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. Carl, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, my man. Thank you for having me. Thank you for bringing me back.
Yeah. I know the last time we talked, the Bills got the best of the Steelers. Well, I guess it's a best of two matchup here now as the Buffalo Bills take on the Philadelphia Eagles. The Bills matchup last week maybe a little bit closer than expected against the Cleveland Browns team that's been reeling, but the Cleveland Browns, as always, have a really good defense. They eliminated the passing game, but as has been the case all season, no one can seem to contain James Cook, as he's really become the focal point of that offense.
Yeah, James Cook was named a Pro Bowler today. We record this on Tuesday. He currently leads the National Football League in rushing yards, so just a phenomenal season by him. That game was probably too close for comfort, but I always tell people an ugly win is still a win, and there are some things they need to clean up, some things they need to address, but I wouldn't ring any or sound any alarms based off of that game alone. I think if you had any concerns about the Buffalo Bills heading into Sunday, I don't think you add any more based off how they left that game.
Yeah, it's always better to. I heard Mike Tomlin say this. It's always better to correct things in a win than it is a loss, because you still get the notch in that win column, no matter how ugly the win looks. But there's going to be another star running back that's going to be coming into this game, and he's arguably coming off of one of his best games of the season. Saquon Barkley finally got over that 100-yard mark, had over 120 yards and a TD against a pretty banged up Commanders team, but still, nonetheless, this is probably the best this Eagles offense and this Eagles run game has looked all year. And if the last time we talked, the Bills, they're still not the best team defending the run. But how would the Bills, I guess, plan on defending such a home run hitter in Saquon Barkley headed into this matchup?
If you would have told me they played this game in middle of October when Saquon and that running game was struggling, I would say, oh, I think the Bills can hide some of their weaknesses in terms of their defensive personnel. Like, okay, Eagles don't run the ball that well. That should be able to help the Bills out. Based off of their last 3 or so games, yeah, this is a very, very rough matchup for the Bills defense. The Eagles are hitting on all cylinders. Saquon Barkley is back to looking like a track star again, especially in the fourth quarter, where he's taking off for the dusting the defense, leaving them behind. And then also it's kind of a pick your poison type of dilemma when you are a defense. Do you stack the box and try to slow down Saquon Barkley? But then when you do that, you're leaving your cornerbacks out to dry and on islands up against A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. I will say those games were up against the Raiders and Commanders, so
Yes.
This week will be a slight step up in competition. But nonetheless, when you just think about how the Bills have played this year, if I were to tell you, hey, this is a team where they will match up good against, the Philadelphia Eagles would be the exact opposite.
Yeah, everyone coming into this season, really, the Philadelphia Eagles, again, still have 10 wins on the year, but obviously have not looked like the dominant force that they have last year. And the last time these two teams faced off, I think it was last year, when it was a pretty exciting matchup in Philly. Now they head to Buffalo, another tough atmosphere to play. Obviously very cold, very windy up there in Buffalo, but how do you think a game like this, going up against a team that just won the Super Bowl last year, a matchup late in the year, and just 2 weeks ahead of the playoffs, how do you think this prepares a team like the Buffalo Bills for the playoffs ahead?
Yeah, I think on two fronts it helps. They haven't played the greatest slate of defensive teams this season. They've played some teams who have solid defenses. Coming to mind, the Chiefs' defense is solid this year. Obviously, they got taken behind the woodshed by the Texans in November, and if I'm off the top of my head, that Ravens team in week 1, I still think was a solid defense, but they haven't played a lot. And in the AFC, you're going to have the Denver Broncos, you're going to have the Houston Texans and the LA Chargers, and the Jacksonville Jaguars defense is playing stout of late. So this will be a good litmus test to see how they stack up when they do play against some of the better defenses in the National Football League. And then, like we mentioned earlier about Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown, there is no cupcakes on your schedule when you are playing up against the best offenses in football. You are playing the best offensive minds and coaching staffs, and they are going to know your weaknesses. And while I don't think the Eagles' infrastructure on offense is great this year, it doesn't take a wise guy to see that. They are struggling at times. I do think, like, okay, when they do finish their season next week against the New York Jets, this will prepare them and say, like, hey, this is where we need to clean some things up before the wild card weekend rolls around.
And this also hasn't been a Buffalo Bills wide receiving core that has been very active. Josh Allen still had just 130 yards this past week. And they still, outside of Khalil Shakir, really can't find anyone to step up and be that downfield threat. They really struggled to push the ball down the field outside of Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir. They really haven't had a go-to guy. And is there any concern, like right now, going into the playoffs, needing that guy to make a third and medium, a third and long play in an area where Buffalo really hasn't seen a lot of production this season?
You know how I told you heading into that Cleveland game, or leaving that Cleveland game, you didn't really want to ring any alarms based on how that game went. I would have rang the alarm about the outside receivers for the Buffalo Bills back in week 2. I think it was very apparent that this team doesn't really have the horses on the outside to really threaten outside cornerbacks. I say this with all due respect. If you are a opposing team's cornerback when you play the Bills, you better bring your shoulder pads, but you don't really need your cleats because you're going to be needed in the run game to stop James Cook. But in terms of slowing down the Bills receivers, they just don't target those guys that often. So Quinyon Mitchell may be boring for him in terms of the passing game. They'll make him tackle, but in terms of the passing game, I don't know how many times he's going to get targeted. Same thing with Cooper DeJean. So I think that it is a area of concern for the Buffalo Bills. It is a weakness for them. They've been able to mask it at times behind a stellar running game and a great offensive line and Josh Allen making stuff and pulling stuff out of a hat. But when they are behind the sticks and it's 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12, and when a team does shut down the running game, like last week the Cleveland Browns did, or that Houston Texans game I keep going back to, they're stuck and they struggle, which is unfortunate because I've always used this analogy. Josh Allen's a Ferrari. He can go 110, 120 miles per hour if you need be. But the problem is with how they're constructed, they have a Ferrari right now in rush hour New York City traffic, and he can't really cook as often as he wants to and get off and go off to the races. So they'll need a nice ball control, make sure they take care of the football style of play in the postseason to win. They have the best quarterback on planet Earth to do it. But yeah, the outside receiving core isn't helping them by any means.
Yeah, and I like that analogy used because you really look at the outside and it's just there's not much there. Khalil Shakir, I believe, is their leading receiver on the year, but he has under 700 yards, just 4 TDs, and just over 10 yards a catch. So it's certainly some concern there for this Buffalo Bills receiving core going forward. But looking into this game, what do you think the Bills needed to do on both sides of the ball to win this game, on offensively and defensively? What do you think those two factors are if they are to win this game?
Every single game where I think the Buffalo Bills are at a decided disadvantage on the perimeter. Like I think this week the Eagles have one of the best cornerback tandems in football, being Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. That means if you are the Bills, you have to be able to establish the run, because if this turns into once again a 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12 game, Quinyon Mitchell is much better than a Tyrell Shavers or a Gabe Davis or a Josh Palmer, and you don't want to live in that world. And even though you mentioned Dalton Kincaid, he's been probably their most consistent downfield threat. He hasn't been the same player since coming back from hamstring and knee injuries over the last week or so. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think he's crossed 50 yards since he's been injured. So that's also a concern for them. So they need to make sure that they're living in 2nd and 2, 3rd and 1. James Cook going for 100, 125 yards to take some ease and stress off of those wide receivers and Josh Allen in the passing game. And then on the other side of the ball, it's the same thing. Slow down Saquon Barkley. That team goes as Saquon Barkley goes. And while I do think the world of Dallas Goedert and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, I would much rather a world where Jalen Hurts has to be Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and be able to dissect the defense down in and down out. Because if he's able to just take play action shots and just chuck it deep to those guys on the outside all game, well, hopefully you got those boys in fantasy football, because there's going to be a lot of points being scored.
Yeah, and it was certainly an Eagles-esque performance last week. Jalen Hurts had under 200 yards, but he had 2 TDs. A.J. Brown had a big day. I think he had just under 100 yards. And Saquon Barkley did the bulk of the load, having over 120 yards. But looking ahead to the playoffs, this team has obviously clinched the playoff berth. The division's still up for grabs, but if the Patriots win this week, I believe, if they win this and next week, they have that division locked up. So I guess looking ahead to the playoffs, what do you think is the best matchup right now for the Buffalo Bills, and what do you think is the worst possible matchup for them going into this first round of the playoffs?
If you would have asked me the same question Saturday morning, I would have a much different answer for you. But in terms of the best answer, that hasn't changed. The Pittsburgh Steelers, if they were to be the 5 seed, the Buffalo Bills that is, and have to go to Pittsburgh in round 1, well, we saw what happened a few weeks back where they were able to run the ball at will. And Aaron Rodgers, I know that was his first game back from injury, but I still don't think even a 95% Aaron Rodgers is putting up 300 yards on this Bills defense. So if you are the Bills, you have proof of concept. You wouldn't mind going down there to Heinz Field. I know it's not called Heinz Field anymore, but I'm an old head and we're going to still call it that.
I fully agree with you.
In terms of a worse matchup, I would have said the Houston Texans Saturday, but Jacksonville Jaguars, They look for real. And this doesn't look like smokes and mirrors and they're doing a bunch of chickeration. Trevor Lawrence looks like the prince and the king and every verbiage that you want to use that he was billed as when he came out in 2021. Liam Cohen has that offense clicking on all cylinders. Josh Hines, Allen, Trevon Walker, Devin Lloyd at linebacker. They are looking really sound in the running game and getting after the passer. It's crazy to think, but I think the Jags may be outside of the Bills because you do have Josh Allen and you want to take them. Outside of them, I think the Jags are probably the hottest team right now in football.
Yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars, one of the, I think, surprises of the week is they didn't just go to Denver and beat Denver. They went to Denver and really handily beat them, both offensively and defensively. That offense, as you mentioned, Trevor Lawrence is probably playing some of the best football of his career. Travis Etienne is a factor in both the pass and the run game, and Trayvon Walker and Josh Allen are continuing to get pressure, and Devin Lloyd as well in the middle of that defense controlling. But yeah, as a Steelers fan, I don't want to play Buffalo at all. Because I saw what happens, and I know that, again, the QB factor is always a big deal to me in the postseason. Josh Allen, arguably the guy with behind Aaron Rodgers, probably the most playoff experience and most playoff success going into this very new age AFC playoff race. But yeah, Buffalo I think would cause a lot of problems for Pittsburgh, and that Jacksonville team right now. They've worked themselves back into discussion for the 1 seed, so we'll see what happens there. But Carl, thanks again for joining the show. It's been a pleasure as always, and we'll see what happens this weekend between the Buffalo Bills and Philadelphia Eagles.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and Merry Christmas.
And right there, you heard from WIVB's Carl Jones as he gave you some valuable insight going into this Bills-Eagles game on, what to expect from the Bills side, but also, what he hopes to not see from the Eagles side, and that's them pounding the football. And he wants to see Jalen Hurts dropping back a lot. And winning that way. That's sort of been the formula for success or in beating the Eagles. You want Jalen Hurts dropping back 25, 30 times. You don't want them running the ball like over 25, 30, over 25 times and them dominating that way. You sort of want this team to spread it out and win these early downs and put the Eagles behind the sticks and make Kevin Patullo's offense beat you dropping back consistently, which they haven't done consistently. And also the Buffalo Bills are one of the best pass defenses in the NFL. The area where they've struggled is their interior defensive line. Injuries there to Big Ed Oliver have really hurt them on the inside, and them not really them having a really young and inexperienced defensive tackle room, and also their linebackers or more athletes, more guys that are better, more so in coverage. Why they have such a really good coverage attack, and I'm sure that's going to affect how the Eagles plan to use Dallas Goedert in this game as well. But the linebackers on the Buffalo Bills side of things, they're much more athletic, and they like to tackle in space. They don't really like to mix it up in the run game. And the Eagles' interior, their offensive line this year has been really banged up. They haven't really been able to impose their will. You look at what they've done. Cam Jurgens, although he made a Pro Bowl, I know there was some debate over that, and if he's really as good as the Pro Bowl voters say he is, because I know Vic Fangio was asked, I think yesterday or today, about the Pro Bowl voting system and what he thinks of it, and he's I think put out there that he believes that former coaches, former players, former coordinators, they should be a part of a big committee that votes the Pro Bowlers in, and not so much that everyone is just voting by the name and likeness, which I think sort of was true in T.J. Watt getting voted in the Pro Bowl, because T.J. Watt is having an extremely down year. And he's also been injured, and his numbers just haven't been the same as they normally are. And I don't see how he got in, but he got in. He was one of the Steelers who got in. But yeah, this is a Buffalo Bills team that wants to run the football, an Eagles defense that has really been good in all phases of the game, but they have been susceptible at times to being run on, and we'll see if the Bills can do that. But I'd imagine if you're the Eagles, you want to stack the box, you want to make Josh Allen drop back and pass the ball because they don't have a one. They don't have a wide receiver one. They haven't really had a wide receiver one since Stephon Diggs left. This has really been an offense that has been carried by Josh Allen putting on the Superman cape at times in the passing game and, dropping back and sort of taking off when he needs to because there's no real threat on the outside to beat them. I like Khalil Shakir. I think I voiced that a lot on his show, on this show, but I don't think he's a one. I think he's a great slot guy, a guy who can dump off on 3rd and short. He's a high usage screen guy as well. He's taken some screens to the house this year, but he's certainly not a guy who's going to consistently win down the field and beat Quinyon Mitchell down after down. The Buffalo Bills don't have that. You mentioned Tyrell Shavers. They brought in veteran Brandon Cooks. Keon Coleman has been in and out of the lineup. Gabe Davis, they brought him back as well, but there's really no one on this Buffalo Bills offense that you look at this Eagles defense, they have 2 well-deserved Pro Bowl corners in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. That's just not going to work if you're the Buffalo Bills. You're not going to consistently win against those 2 corners. You don't have the weaponry. You don't have the horses, as Carl Jones said, to win that matchup consistently on the outside. But we'll see what happens on Sunday, and overall, I think it should be a fun game. The last time these two teams played, I think it was last year, and it was a pretty entertaining game, so we'll see what happens there. But moving on now to the other PA team with a possible playoff berth on the line this week. The Pittsburgh Steelers, with a win on Sunday, will clinch the AFC North. ESPN, I think, right now has them at a 93% chance to win the AFC North. With that being said, they will be without their number 1 wide receiver in DK Metcalf. That is going to be a huge issue on Sunday. And Andrew Clay, he caught up with Brian Batko from Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and he basically gave his spiel on Myles Garrett, how Pittsburgh plans to defend him, how these other wide receivers are going to have to step up in DK Metcalf's absence, and Mike Tomlin's reaction to what happened on Sunday as well. But without further ado, here's Andrew Clay, who talked to Brian Batko on Black and Gold Nation's podcast, The Extra Point.
We welcome Brian Batko to the show. Merry Christmas, Brian. It is another week of Steelers football.
Merry Christmas, Andrew. Great to chat with you.
We are previewing the Steelers and the Browns coming up on Sunday. Brian, last time the Steelers and Browns met was at week 7, I think was the number. Week 6.
Yeah.
Okay, week 6. Myles Garrett was held without a sack and was completely ineffective. It is really hard to imagine that lightning can strike twice, right?
Yeah, but they've done a pretty good job against him in the past. Now they've had some tough assignments against him in the past, but pretty much everybody does if you play him twice a year. So yeah, I mean, they've had good plans to combat him, week 6 included. But you're right. I think it's difficult to ask for a repeat performance of that. And as Mike Tomlin pointed out Tuesday in his weekly news conference, Garrett has he tends better against Steelers up there by the lake in Cleveland. So new left tackle out there in Dylan Cook than the first time they faced them. But Dan Moore Jr. has won his fair share of matchups with Garrett. And usually he's got some help to his left to put 4 hands on him instead of 2. So, yeah, I'm sure that Arthur Smith is up there in those offices as we speak, coming up with ways to and they always say this too. You're never going to take him out of the game, but you can at least try to minimize him or limit the damage that he does.
And Cook has been, honestly, quite frankly, amazing in a few starts. This has been quite the revelation over the last couple weeks.
Yeah, it has. And, I think it's one of those deals where, I mean, you can look at it either way. On one hand, fans are going to say, well, why didn't coaches know that this guy was so good? Why was he even cut from the team or making the practice squad? Sure, I guess you can say that. But on the other hand, that sometimes, robs credit from a guy from developing. It robs credit from coaches for helping to develop him. So, yeah, I mean, I think everybody involved right now with the way Dylan Cook has played in these 3 games deserves some credit here, and we'll see if he can keep it up. A lot of guys can play well for a 2 or 3 game stretch, but you make your money if you can string a lot of games together and do it consistently week by week, month by month, season by season.
The Steelers have not swept the Browns since Ben Roethlisberger was the quarterback. Does that say more about the Steelers or the Browns, do you think?
Well, I think it probably says more about the Steelers because other than that 2020 COVID year where Cleveland came here and got its first win in Pittsburgh, or only win in Pittsburgh in what, like more than 2 decades now, still regular season, they can't get a win in Pittsburgh. And that was a postseason game, albeit that was weird with very few fans in the stands. I think it probably says more about the Steelers and the cycle that they've been stuck in of being slightly above average and winning more games than they lose, but never really being a threat in that run too. But even that 2020 year, it rang kind of hollow by the end because of the way they collapsed down the stretch. So, yeah, it's interesting to me that you bring up how back and forth this series has been in recent years, because we all know the narrative is Steelers are the big time history of the franchises. There's no arguing that, but at least in the individual meetings since 2017 or so, it's been more back and forth than the Steelers dominating it. And I'll give you this nugget, Andrew. I'll leave it under your tree, so to speak. Every Steelers Super Bowl winning season has included a victory in Cleveland.
Wow, interesting. That is very interesting. I was just trying to look this up. I think is
so it's kind of like the road to the Lombardi goes through Cleveland a little bit, I guess you could say.
That I do find that very interesting. I was trying to look this up real quick. I meant to do this before we started talking. I think is Ben's wins 25 or 26 wins, I think over the Browns. Is that the most by any one team? By any one player? I think it's second.
There's a lot of stats that are up there.
It looks like that. It looks like it's second to Tom Brady, who has 33 wins over the Bills. Ben.
Huh, that's actually, I mean, that's kind of surprising in and of itself, the way that the Bills have been going lately. But yeah, I mean, obviously they were bad for a large swath of Tom's prime. So yeah, a lot of those Ben stats with most wins in that stadium, more than any Browns quarterback, given all the ones that they've sifted through over the years. So yeah, but it's been a tough place to play for the Steelers in the last basically going on a decade now.
Well, Brian, I hate to break this news to you, but like Brady's been out of the league a few years. He hasn't been with the Patriots. You and I, we're getting old. We're getting old. The days that Tom Brady just whooped up on the AFC East, those are pretty far behind us somehow. There was a Bucs tenure in there.
Well, the thing that we can do, Andrew, is I remember when the Bills were horrible and the Jets were a thorn in his side. Can you believe that, kid? The Jets.
Look, as a kid that grew up an Eagles fan, I always tell the story. Like, I remember when the Eagles were literally kind of the Cleveland Browns of the NFC. They were just so bad and would throw a lot of money at guys like Ricky Watters and Charlie Gardner and just try to make a team relevant until they brought Andy Reid in, and the rest was history. So, yeah, I sometimes feel really old because since the Andy Reid era, I can't complain. It's been lovely for that franchise. When we look at this game, we'd be remiss not to at least mention DK Metcalf. The incident, we all saw it. I definitely was in the camp that he needed to be punished in some fashion. I was surprised it was not pulled back to 1 game. What was your reaction?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised too. What that tells me though, Andrew, is, whether the Lions fan said what DK third hand, alleged that he said. So the only reason that we even have that bit of info really is from Chad Ochocinco and James Harrison, oddly enough, but that's kind of just the NFL ecosystem in 2025 and almost 2026. But that's neither here nor there. My point is, whether the fans said those things to DK or not, this suspension being upheld tells me the league can't find any evidence of that, whether it's the people who were sitting around him, that I'm sure they were checking phone video. I'm sure they were asking people, hey, what's your account of what went down? We can't really litigate whether the guy's a complete loser or not doing this at an NFL game, but we can at least investigate and look into what words did he say? What did he do to try to provoke this player? So, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate all around. It's a little bit of a victimless crime because, you know, the guy was being a jerk and he didn't get hurt. DK is, you know, taking a bit of a public perception hit, but also people are going to make up their own minds on how they feel he reacted to all that.
The Steelers could go into Sunday's game without even needing to play it. They could win the playoffs, win the division. I mean, with a Ravens loss on Saturday night. Do you think Mike Tomlin would, will, or should sit starters if that is the scenario?
Well, I'll say this much. His answer on this topic Tuesday surprised me a little bit because I was so expecting him to just do the usual, hey guys, I'm not into hypotheticals. I'll leave that to all you. But he didn't really shoot it down. So you know, I think that tells me that he's at least considering taking that route. And why wouldn't you? Because they had such an early bye, week 5, coming off of the Dublin game. That seems like 5 years ago now at this point, with everything that has gone on in this Steelers season, the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows, right? So I think it would make a lot of sense to get these guys about as much rest as you can. Maybe talk to guys on an individual basis too and say, hey, how banged up do you feel? Do you feel like you need to play to stay sharp, or do you feel like you just need to, you know, take some wear and tear off of your body? I mean, obviously it goes without saying, if they have 2 weeks of a buffer, that's even better. And you can really massage things to kind of balance that rest versus rust debate that we always have in the preseason too. But yeah, I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice to your team that's been at it week in and week out for almost 3 months now, if you don't, you know, take a little bit of tread off the tires here.
Okay, Brian, I can't not ask you a Christmas question here before we let you go. You leave Santa cookies and milk. Do you leave anything for the reindeer?
We had this discussion in my house Christmas Eve morning, and fortunately, we just bought carrots. So yes, we're gonna leave some carrots, and also my kindergartner got from his teacher some sort of reindeer food that you're supposed to sprinkle out on the lawn. So we're gonna have a good time doing that Christmas Eve night as well. So yeah, you gotta help feed the reindeer too.
You gotta keep them energized. It's a long night, right? Hey, Steelers or Browns?
Yeah, absolutely. And they're doing the heavy lifting, Andrew.
Steelers and Browns. Who wins this one?
I think I'm going to take the Steelers. I'm, you know, slightly impressed by what Shedeur Sanders has been doing lately for the Browns, but I'm still not a huge believer in him. And, you know, I think this Steelers team is rolling right now. The Browns, probably tough for them to drum up motivation for a game like this at the end of the season, although it is a rivalry game. They've played tough before. As we mentioned, some of those other Browns wins over the Steelers up there have been meaningless for the team in orange. So, you know, I'm leaning Steelers early in the week, just because of the way they've played lately. And I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't give them a ton of praise for going to Detroit and beating the Lions, because I thought it was very unlikely that they were going to do that. So I'll take the Steelers in this one.
We are seeing the best iteration of this Pittsburgh Steelers team here at the time of year where you need the best. He is Brian Batko of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Brian, we really appreciate you joining us, and I hope you and your family have a wonderful holiday.
You too. Thanks for watching, everybody.
That was Brian Batko of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And yes, what I found out while that video, that interview was playing, was that must have selected on the keyboard shortcuts of Premiere Pro. I selected just the back half of that interview. That's why the back half of that interview looked pretty familiar as the interview is playing, was because that's what happened. I only selected the back half of the interview to export, so that's my bad. But we got it done, and that means we're also going to have to take another break here, just ahead of this Christmas Eve night. We got to get 2 more breaks in. One of them coming now. We'll talk a little bit more about that Steelers Browns game when we come back. Probably take another break and then go into some of the local sports packages that I was talking about earlier in the show. So stay tuned. I'll get my analysis on the Steelers Browns when we come back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 2822 Sports Night. I'm your host, Ricky Turner. We're sponsored by Hyundai, as always. Yes, the Steelers will travel to Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns. That was a fun fact by Brian Batko. I didn't realize Pittsburgh in all 6 of their Super Bowls have included a win in Cleveland. So if we're going by history, then Pittsburgh would check another box maybe in securing that in a very weak and uncertain AFC. We really don't know what's going to. Patrick Mahomes is out. Bills could be in the wild card, having to travel to Pittsburgh. There's a really young and unproven top of the AFC North with Drake May and the Patriots, the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence and a first-year head coach and Liam Cohn. And then you have the old guard with Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, a very old Pittsburgh team, a very veteran-laden group as they look to get their first playoff win in over 10 years. But yeah, in all reality, this should be a game Pittsburgh wins, even without DK Metcalf. Mike Tomlin was very touch and go with how he's handled this DK Metcalf saga. He did not really want to get I don't think ever really wants to get too involved and talk about something he doesn't really know about. And he was also being very preventative, because when he was asked, it was earlier in the week before that hearing would take place. And I have to be honest with Brian and Andrew, I certainly thought that there should have been some kind of punishment. I do agree on that. I thought maybe 1 game they get him with the suspension for that. I think I said that earlier in the week as well. I thought even after the appeal, I'm like, yeah, maybe they're just trying to set the tone and they'll, drop this back down to 1 game, because there have been similar instances. I know Lamar Jackson had one earlier in the year, although the fan did initiate that one by, I think, pushing one of his teammates' helmets. And then I believe there was one last year with a Carl Lawson and an Eagles fan as well. And I know that resulted in it resulted in the Bills. I'm not sure if it was Carl Lawson, but it was with the Bills and the Eagles last year in Philadelphia too. So we'll see. And that just resulted in a hefty fine. But yeah, I certainly did not see that coming. I didn't think they'd hold it at 2 games, but here we are. Pittsburgh has to deal with it, and they're going to have to move on. But this is a game in real reality. Pittsburgh should win. They need to run the ball well. Cleveland's going to be without Quinshon Judkins. You have to neutralize this pass rush. This is, as Brian said, this isn't a Cleveland team that right now is very motivated to probably be playing at this point, because they're so down in the dumps record-wise, and also really playing for nothing outside of ruining Pittsburgh's playoffs hopes. And maybe that is enough, because you would like to ruin Pittsburgh's playoff hopes, and they haven't won there since Big Ben retired, and that's been an issue going there. Myles Garrett has 5 sacks in his last 2 games against Pittsburgh in Cleveland. So we'll see what happens. It's certainly going to be interesting, but certainly a game I think Pittsburgh should still win. They can't let Cleveland hang around. I think that's the biggest thing. They can't let Cleveland hang around early. Pittsburgh has to put their foot down, go out there on their first 2-3 drives, put points on the board, and make sure to put Cleveland in a hole, and then get after the rookie QB. Get after him. That offensive line isn't very good. They struggle to keep him upright. And they're just not very good, to be frank with you. You can't let a bad team hang around, and a turnover here swings the game. You can't let that happen. You got to put Cleveland away early and get on them. But we're gonna go to break one last time, and then we're gonna get into some local sports. So stay tuned as we get into some local sports here in our last segment. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to 2822 Sports Night, sponsored by Hyundai. And now we're going to get into some local sports. Firstly, we're going to play Elena's package that she did about Towanda's Bill Sexton getting his record-setting win, or PIAA wrestling, setting the wins record. So yeah, we're going to get into this, and Elena went to that match on Tuesday. So here it is.
Team Bill Sexton, it's a number he'll never forget. As tonight, that exact number made him the winningest high school wrestling head coach in the entire state of Pennsylvania. A packed crowd celebrated this historic night as Sexton stood in front of them with current players and alums that span 3 generations of wrestlers coached under his legacy. But despite all eyes on him, Sexton says this moment is bigger than him.
There's a lot of joy in this. But to be honest with you, it's not about me. I mean, I've been at this for a long time, and the numbers add up, and I just happen to hang around long enough to get to the top. It's about our program. It's about our community. It's about the hundreds of kids that have wrestled for me, just the people that came down to shake my hand. They represent 3 generations of wrestlers that I've had in this program. And guys that have coached with me over the years. This is a group project.
Not only has Sexton taught fundamental techniques on the mat, but valuable life lessons to live by.
To say the least, he has taught my team, my ex-teammates, and a community of Towanda wrestlers lots of values that they can take into their adult lives. Me personally, he's taught me a lot about my mental game. He's helped me push through a lot of hardships. I've had 3 hard years wrestling coming in my senior year. Didn't look good, and I've been outperforming because Coach Sexton pushes us in the room every day to be better.
At 72 years old, Sexton is in his 47th year coaching the Towanda boys wrestling team, which assistant head coach Jeremy Slider says people can learn a lot from.
You know, I don't think you get that in today's sports where, you get those coaches that even stay 20 years anymore. So for him to be 46, 47 years in, I think if you go around the state in Hershey, when you hear Towanda, the coaches know that that's a Bill Sexton, it's tied to that.
Sexton, also an American history teacher, says he never believed that one day he would be making history himself.
I thought maybe I'd be in this town for 1 year. I got a job for a man who had taken a sabbatical leave. I left because he came back. They promised me that if he came back, I could have the job. I went to Washington, D.C. I was working for an insurance company selling insurance. I thought I'd be there. Came back, met my wife, raised my family. I couldn't think of anywhere else to be. It turned out really well for me.
Right there, that's Coach Bill Sexton on a super milestone from him. Congrats to him, as he's now enshrined in the PIAA record books forever. But now we're going to be taking a look back at some of the state championship winners from this past year, from football to basketball to softball. We've got everything in between. But here's the first part of our state championships package.
We started the year off strong with wrestling. 3 NEPA high school wrestlers won state championships for their respective schools. Brant Harrer of Montgomery won his 2nd straight title and finished his season undefeated. Austin Johnson of Muncie finished his high school career with his 2nd career state title. And Brenda Banks from Panther Valley went back-to-back with PIAA state titles.
My season went well. It was a good season, long season, but, it got me to where I am today. And I'm super proud of that, all obstacles I overcame before the season. This one means a little extra to me, and I'm very proud to call myself a 2-time state champ.
It's definitely, the best feeling ever. I mean, this is a real, it doesn't even compare to my sophomore year. It's just so awesome to be able to cap my senior year off like that.
Wrestling is a difficult sport for everybody. Like, even though I do pretty well, wrestling is hard. It's not just physical, it's mental, you know, it's emotional sport, but I enjoy it a lot with my entire heart, so I keep pushing.
Not only did we have state champions, but in college wrestling, it was Penn State's Carter Starocci making NCAA Division I history as he became the first wrestler to win 5 national championships.
I think that's one of the really blessings that, of going to Penn State University. You have really high-level guys, almost every single look in the room possible, and obviously we have the greatest wrestler of all time in Coach Cale Sanderson, so, and all of our coaches too. So I just think having that alone I think that piece alone already separates you, and then add in everything else, and just kind of you got to go out there and have the will to win.
Let's dribble on over to basketball. Back in March, the Loyal Sock girls basketball team won the girls' 3A state title in Hershey. This marked the first time in program history the Lady Lancers have won a state championship. They wrapped up their season with a 30-2 record, one of the best seasons by a team from Lycoming County.
We kept making next steps. We got to Elite Eights, we got to Final Fours, you know, and here we are at the pinnacle of it, and we're able to find a way there to extend it in the fourth quarter and find a way to pull it out.
The last 20 seconds, we all saw that score. We saw the 20 seconds, and we knew that game was coming to an end, and it felt great. It was definitely a great way for me to end my career and go out on my senior year. Like, there's no better way to go out.
Just to know, like, the team, like, we have a great team and a great group of girls that are, like, we're good friends. So to know to celebrate with them, like, I couldn't even, like, have an emotion at the time. Like, I was just so happy, and it was just so great.
Starting things off with track and field, junior Bailey Espinosa of Lewisburg took home gold in the girls' AA 3,200-meter run. In the boys' AA 100-meter hurdles, it was Nativity BVM's Noah Dolman who finished first. Victoria Luckenbach of Pine Grove area finished first in the girls' AA 100-meter dash. In the girls' AA 4x100-meter run, it was Warrior Run who took home gold. The team made up of Reagan Lust, Katie Zektansky, Claire Dufresne, and Natalie Hall finishing first. In the girls' AA 300-meter hurdles, it was Kylie Temple of Hughesville who brought home gold for the Spartans.
My coach always calls it, he describes it as banking energy instead of banking time. I think when you bank time, you kind of had that fear of running away from failure, but I think when you bank energy in a way, you're kind of running towards success. You're just setting yourself up for that good time.
I felt good. I was honestly pretty relaxed until we went up and set, and then I felt my heart start to beat. But I felt pretty good throughout the race. I know I saw the girls very close to me on my sides, but I didn't let that get to me. I ran my race, and I knew I'd be able to finish strong.
Speechless, not really like setting in yet. I know I'm a senior, so this is my last race with these girls. So I know like after the meet today, I'm probably gonna cry. I'm probably gonna get emotional. I can get emotional talking about it now, but I'm so proud of them, and it feels good bringing this home my senior year.
Swinging on over to golf, Scranton Prep's Cole Powell took home the PIAA Golf State Championship. He shot 7 under in the tournament to secure the title.
Being the only one to win out of all the amazing golfers that came out of this place is just a great accomplishment. Being able to celebrate with all my friends and having them there with me is just great, and their support there, they followed me around the entire day, which made me feel even better, and yeah, just supported and felt great.
Bouncing on over to tennis. For the second time in 3 years, the Scranton Prep girls tennis team won the Class 2A state title. Lily Lengel and Emma Cook won in singles, and in doubles it was Edith Villega and Macy Bolzoni who secured the win for the Classics.
This team showed such heart, grit, and determination from every match. Our saying was O-Cube, so we wanted to outgrind, out-hustle, and outwork every single team, and these girls did it every single match, so I'm super proud of their performance.
And just this month, the Southern Columbia Tigers football team won the PIAA Class 2A state championship. This is Southern Columbia's 15th state title. All 15 of those wins under head coach Jim Roth. The Tigers have now won 8 out of the last 9 state titles, and they finished their season with a 15-1 record.
For this group of guys to turn it around so quick in 1 year and get back to this level, realizing the fact that most of these starters were starters last year, and they went through those struggles. So just really a testament to the character and the kind of kids there are in this group.
A lot of people might not understand how great this feels. High school football, to me, it's been, it's kind of been a lot of my life, and that's why it means so much to me. You put so much time and so much hours into lifting and just getting good at this game, and it just, when it pays off, there's no other feeling like it. So.
Last year I was lost to Troy. That long bus ride home from Mansfield, I mean, I'm a senior. I mean, this is how we spoke about it when we were sophomores here, we seen how good it felt for the seniors. I mean, I'm at a loss of words right now. I mean, we practiced so hard for this.
Yes, that will do it for this episode of 2822 Sports Night. Great work there by Elena Lucido, highlighting a lot of our local teams on their state titles, state championships, track and field, tennis. Didn't have any in baseball, but basketball, wrestling, and everything in between. So hopefully here's to a great 2026, but great job by Elena, and Elena will see you on Christmas night, talking probably some football and basketball, the games going on then. But that will do it for this episode of 2022 Sports Night, sponsored by Hyundai. I'm your host, Ricky Turner, and see you next time.